This is Bailey with KMPL, bringing to you another DIY project associated with our last video, where I demonstrated how to make a log house out of cardboard. Today, I'm demonstrating a variation of that design that uses the same base but different techniques to get a stone house. If you'd like to try this out on your own, you can use the same templates as the previous house, and those templates can be found in kits available on level 4 while supplies last. Just like last time though, you can merely use this video as inspiration and build to a scale you prefer. These are all the main pieces you'll need. 2 side walls, 1 front and back wall, 2 rectangles for the roof, a triangle for the awning, a door and 2 steps, and a chimney cutout. The first step I'd recommend taking is tracing the templates onto your cardboard and cutting them out. To build the structure of your house, begin by grabbing the front and side walls and gluing them together where they connect. It's likely best to hold the 2 walls in place until they're secure enough to stick together without your help. Attach the second side wall to the front wall, followed by the back wall. You can also reinforce these pieces by placing a little more glue along the segments where they connect to each other. To attach the roof, we'll focus on one side at a time. Lay hot glue down on the cardboard where the first section of the roof will touch the walls of the house as seen here. Then, center the roof piece and have it so that the topmost section of the roof aligns with the peaks of the front and back walls. Press down to help the pieces adhere to each other. To attach the other half of the roof, put more glue down where the roof will hit the walls. Align it with the other roof piece and apply pressure. It's okay if the alignment isn't 100% perfect when it comes to the roof halves, and it's also okay to have some gapping between your roof and walls because we'll be making shingles that will help cover up imperfections. This is the chimney extension you can make from your kit. You'll notice some dotted lines on the template, which are where you'll be folding the cardboard. I'd suggest perforating these lines to make it easier when you go to bend the cardboard. You can take a pen, pencil, or a pair of scissors, running it across the dotted lines. Don't apply so much pressure that you cut through to the other side of the cardboard though. Instead, make slight indentations. Once that's all taken care of, you can glue the sides together, holding them in place until they're secure. The bottom of the chimney will be glued to your roof, and it'll be the slanted edges of the chimney that you'll attach to the roof, as shown here in the video. You can place the chimney anywhere on the roof. Once again, it's okay if something doesn't perfectly align between your roof and chimney, because the shingles will help in covering up any cosmetic problems. Turning our attention to the door, you can see that I've already cut out the template from the kit and am in the process of adding texture to it. Like with the previous house, I'm going to make the door look like it's made from wood by cutting random lengths of cardboard and gluing them to the door with a little bit of space between each plank. As long as the strips are the same length as the door, you don't have to be too picky about them because you can easily trim off any parts that hang over the door frame. When it comes to trimming, you can give your door more of a curved shape at the top, or a flat look. This stacked cardboard represents stairs. It's comprised of 2 parts, both of which are in the kits. Glue the shorter one on top of the larger one by aligning the flat ends. After, you can glue the steps to the front of the house. With the glue having dried on the door, I can give the wood a distressed look. Run an X-Acto knife or pair of scissors over the slats to indent them. Glue the door so that it rests on the stairs. You have the option to create an awning over the door. This is the triangular piece in your kit. Once you've traced and cut it out, lightly bend it so that you achieve a curved look. You can glue this so that it touches the top corners of the door, or hovers just above the door. For this house, I'm going to attach windows with shutters. I like to draw and cut out the windows outlines on a separate piece of cardboard, which is what I'm doing here, because it will give more depth to my shutters. To begin making shutters, you can follow a similar process as when you were making planks for your door. Begin by cutting strips of cardboard that are as long as your windows. Next, glue the strips to the windows while incorporating small gaps between each piece. Cut the pieces that hang over too far. For more detail, I'm attaching 4 smaller strips of cardboard across the windows horizontally. Each only reaches about halfway across each window. In the middle of the window, resting on top of the 4 horizontal strips, are 2 diagonal pieces of cardboard that arch upward. It's optional to distress the shutters like I've shown with the door, giving them grooves. The windows can be placed anywhere you like. I want to add detail to the eaves of the house, so I'm going to trace the outline of where the roof pieces meet. This allows me to draw on detail I can later glue on. These are the 2 roof details, which will be attached later. For this house, I'm going for a stone appearance. To get this same look, use egg cartons. The pulp ones give the best texture, but I've also used the foam ones, which can also look fairly nice when it's all said and done. Rip or cut the carton into smaller pieces. I don't try to make specific shapes, but personally like when they look circular, ovular, or rectangular. Really, anything goes, and nothing has to look identical. When gluing the shapes down, you can leave some space between the pieces. Here's a blurry look at the house with all the stones on it. Next, I'm going to make bricks to go along the chimney. Cut a length of cardboard that's roughly the size of each chimney's side and further cut these pieces into smaller rectangles. You can cut these reduced rectangles into varying sizes before gluing them to the chimney. Offset the layers so they don't look identical and have more of a staggered appearance. Turning our attention back to the eaves, I'm going to paint them green before I glue them on because I'm going to give the house a green color palette. While the roof accents dry, I'm going to paint with that same green the door and windows. As always, as one thing dries, I'm moving on to something else. In this case, the next order of business is the chimney. I'm going to put down a base coat of black and then wait for that to dry. Afterwards, I'll brush on some watered down orange and red paint. Finally, I'll put a layer of white down for snow because I'm going to winterize the house. My process for the stone walls consists of beginning with a layer of dark gray. With time, I'll build the sides of the house up with lighter and lighter grays for depth. I'm going to paint the steps gray to match the rest of the house. Here is one of the roof decorations being applied, and then we're going to make shingles. The rectangular shingles were used in the previous video, so the scalloped ones will be the style applied to this house. To make them, cut strips of cardboard that are at least an inch thick. The bigger they are, the less you'll have to make. Next, cut the strips into rectangles. Each rectangle then needs to have one side cut so that it's curved like the examples here on the screen. These don't have to be identical. In my opinion, cardboard like this is really thick to work with because of its layers, and I've also found it harder to paint. Therefore, I peel off one layer, discard the thinner portion, and glue down the thicker one with the ridged side facing downward. The first layer of shingles can be applied at the bottom of the roof, and these can overhang off the edge a bit. I'm overlapping each shingle just slightly. Keep gluing shingles in horizontal lines, one above the next. I'd like to note that the layers can slightly overlap the one directly underneath it as well. Shingles can also be placed on the awning above the door and on the underside of the roof. Returning to the chimney, I applied water to some orange and red paint as promised and lightly covered the bricks. With the paint on the walls dried, I can now go over them with a light gray. I'm dry brushing this new shade on and not completely covering up the dark gray that's underneath it. Rather, I want the dark gray to poke through so that the house has more character to it. Next on the agenda is painting the roof green to match my door and windows. I like to try to get the sides and backs of the shingles as much as possible, but you don't have to be that thorough. Lighter green paint can be added on top of the dark so that you have a greater dimension and interest. You can take a brush that's dry and apply some paint to it for dry brushing. My goal is to apply more paint to the bottom of the shingles and fade as I go upward. Consequently, I press my brush a bit harder at the base of the shingles and lighten my pressure as I drag my brush up so that the light green is less drastic the higher I go. Another even lighter shade of green that's almost yellow is also going on my roof. Once your house has its base coats and any accents you want to add, you have the choice to winterize it. If that sounds like something you'd like to do, I'll show you one way you might go about doing so. You can dry brush white paint on the roof, just like I did with the lighter shades of green. You can also dry brush onto the door, windows, and awning. Feel free to even add some white to the walls. If you don't mind adding glitter, you can add some to make it look like the snow is sparkling or reflecting in the sun. To attach said glitter, you'll need to set down some adhesive on the areas you want the glitter attached to. I'm using Mod Podge, a water-based glue sealer and finish. I'm not going to smear it everywhere. Instead, I'm just randomly putting it in some places. If your white paint is still wet, another option is to shake some glitter onto it instead of adding some other adhesive. To catch as much excess glitter as I can, I'm setting down a paper plate to contain the mess. The plate also comes in handy for when I want to shake off the extra glitter. To lock the glitter in place, you can add an extra layer of Mod Podge after the initial layer and all the paint dries. And there we have it! Our finished house, which is currently on display this winter in the team department. Thanks so much for watching, and if you take a kit and make a house or freehand one on your own, feel free to tag us in your creations. We'd love to see what you come up with.